Because you are not dealing with a sequel. You are dealing with the concluding chapter of a trilogy.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends normally spin a wheel once a week and it normally chooses the horror movie for them. But today, in honor of Scream 5, Joe Testa, longtime guest of the show, and I are going to be discussing Scream 2, 3, and 4. We've already covered Scream 1, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. It was Eric, Joe, and I. So if you haven't listened to that one and you want to catch up on our thoughts on Scream 1, you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. We also recorded our thoughts on Scream 2, and that episode came out yesterday, so you can check that out. But today, Scream 3, which was also directed by Wes Craven. This one was written, though, by somebody else, and it was released in 2001. Let's see. Actually, do you know who wrote it off the top of your head? I'm going to type it in.
Yeah, his name is Aaron Kruger. Very appropriate last name. However, I believe this came out in 2000.
You're right. I'm seeing that right now. Yes. So only 3 years later. So it was a 3-year gap.
Yes, that's right. And I'm sure that was far too long for the Weinsteins who wanted to get this movie out like immediately. But I think Craven wanted to do other things. Oh, I know he wanted to do other things. And I think it was in his contract that, he would do Scream 3, but he got to do something else. And the something else turned out to be, I don't know if you ever saw it. I never saw it, but the Meryl Streep movie, Music of the Heart.
No, I did not see that.
I missed that one too. One of the few Wes Craven movies I haven't seen, but that was part of his deal. They had to let him do something else, something completely different.
Well, I guess moving back just a little bit back to Scream 2 for a second, I feel like this is maybe one of the only times, and correct me if I'm wrong, where Wes Craven actually maybe wanted to do the sequel as opposed to being like kind of forced into it or them taking his character away from him sort of idea.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't know how he felt about, I know he did The Hills Have Eyes too, but...
Oh, he directed that one?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that was out of desperation, though. I think it was just during some dark times before Nightmare on Elm Street, and I think he was just having trouble getting things financed. But yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, so that's I always look at this as like his baby. I mean, he's got so many babies, but this is like his series, and that's why I'm a little afraid for Scream 5. But we can talk about that at the end. But this was definitely my least favorite. But again, I like certain parts of it. It's not a bad movie, and for it to be the third one, I think this movie gets a lot of hate, but it's definitely the weakest in my mind.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. And I remember going in, obviously I was still super hyped for it.
Right.
But it did feel like at the time that, the slasher thing was kind of winding down. I feel like the true end came the following year with Valentine. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah, that seemed like, okay, I think it's time to put this to bed.
The bloody nose mask guy.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, I mean, I was really excited for this one. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. I saw it several times in theaters.
Oh, wow.
But it did seem like a pretty significant step down. And, I think it was a case of maybe too many cooks in the kitchen. Like you said, they didn't have Kevin Williamson this time around. And just a little bit messier all around, even though they did have more time with this one than they did on the second one. It's amazing the second one came out as well as it did when they had to, it was in theaters less than a year after the first movie.
Yeah, it reminds me of Halo 2. I don't know if you're a video game guy, but Halo 2 got rushed and it ended up being like the best one. And it was like, how did that one do so much better than ones that had like 7 years to prep? But
interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. You make a diamond under pressure. I don't know. But first thing I was thinking of right when it started, Cotton Weary's character, like in 2, he's just like very like, Sydney, or I'm mad at you, like, you gotta calm down. And then by Scream 3, he's like full-blown LA douchebag, like kind of radio host or TV show host or whatever. But the one thing that I was thinking, which I don't know who the actress was that plays his girlfriend, but I was thinking, or I was gonna ask you, who do you think could have been a big it star right then to play that girlfriend? It would have been a little bit more of like, okay, we know it's gonna be a big star, he gets killed off in the beginning.
Oh man, Around this time, 2000. Oh man, Britney Spears? I
Oh,
don't, I don't know. So you're saying they should have had a bigger star
right.
as Cotton's girlfriend?
Exactly. So I thought
Hmm.
of one and I was like, I feel like she would have been perfect. And when people saw her, they would have been like, no way, would have been Cameron Diaz.
Oh, sure.
Imagine
Yeah.
Cameron Diaz as Cotton's girlfriend. You get that opening scene of, the knife going through the door, all the confusion, all
Hmm.
the stuff, and they both get killed. I'm like, that's a way to start Scream 3.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. The scene definitely needs something because, it was a shock to see Cotton killed,
mhm.
because he was, a survivor from the previous couple movies. So that was a shock, but it seems like, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the voice changer that can
Oh,
magically sound like anybody in this movie. So that
hell, yeah.
automatically we're just kind of starting off on a strange foot. And then Cotton kind of just goes down pretty easy. And I think there's just a general lack of imagination and ambition, not only in this scene, but just kind of in this entire movie.
Okay, yeah. So that's like a way that kind of sets the tone. You just said
Mhm.
something that reminded me of just the whole franchise I wanted to ask you about. Dude,
Mhm.
why is everybody that puts on the ghost face costume turned into like the Three Stooges, like slipping on every banana peel? I can't do anything without flailing around like somebody that's lost all motor function. Like, what do you think that is?
Well, as someone who has wore that costume for several Halloweens, I will say that it is very difficult to see and move around in. So, yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if it's the same stuntman every time, but there is a remarkable similarity to their movements when all of these killers are supposed to be different people and even different genders.
Yeah, they're all the same. They're all so clumsy. They're all like, I
Mhm.
mean, they are all new killers for the most part, but it's still
Mhm.
just like, why are they all the same? And the only person that would know that is like Sydney and Dewey and Gail and the audience. Nobody else has
Mhm.
seen them, survived to see what they look like, and they all die, so they can't be like, all right, by the way, when you put on the costume, you have to be like a fucking idiot the whole time. It's like, oh, okay, okay. Like, so why do they all act like that?
No, good call.
So yeah, the voice changer thing, dude. What the hell is that?
Yeah, I don't know. When it can even imitate Sydney's mother, her dead mother,
Dude.
like they were obviously just kind of throwing a lot of shit at the wall with this one. At least that's what it seems like. I don't know. Yeah, I
Uh,
don't know. I heard Kevin Williamson's original idea for this, and I didn't know really what to make of that either.
oh.
As far as I know, he didn't have anything to do with this story.
Hmm.
His idea almost sounded like, I don't know if you've seen the 80s horror movie April Fool's Day.
No, I don't think so.
It's a slasher movie, but at the end you find out like it was all a practical joke. Like that's why it's called April Fool's Day. It sounded a lot like that, which is weird, and I don't know what to make of that.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, this one just you know what? Let me focus on a few things I do like about this movie
Yeah.
because they are there. I think it's interesting, if we can skip to the end,
Yeah.
you find I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. You find out the killer this time is this character Roman, and if I'm going to go back to my reaction in theaters, if I was like, "Oh, it's that guy," in Scream 2, with this guy I was like, "Who's this again?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It was the
but
same way.
anyway, he's the director of the new Stab movie, and you find out he's been kind of pulling the strings essentially since before Scream 1 even started. He essentially turned Billy evil, essentially.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all really ridiculous, but I like the idea of it. I
Mm.
like the idea that maybe from the beginning there was this puppet master, and the idea that he's a director is kind of cool. That he's been kind of just manipulating everyone this whole time, but it doesn't come off that way. It comes off like like just throwing shit against the wall. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, there's a lot of things in this movie. I like the idea. I don't like the execution.
Dude, I mean, here's the thing. It sucks. What happened? Like, let's imagine he is this Emperor Palpatine who comes in the third act and is like, "It was all me the whole time." Like,
Mhm.
let's
Mhm.
imagine that is the case, dude. You're 29, you're directing a big budget Hollywood movie. Like, your life is going, you've defied the odds for most people in the world. Can you just, like, relish in that? Do you have to kill your half sister who didn't do this to you, like, just to perpetuate this, like, lore of like an urban legend that's going on right now? Like, just chill, dude. Like,
Yeah, and then when he starts whining about
Yeah.
I'm gonna take everything away from you that should have been mine, like what exactly?
Right, dude. It's like, I want to know your stories. Like, well, I got a scholarship to NYU, and went to the film studies program. I really, I did some shorts. They all took off. It's like, okay, at that point, are you still just like at night, like going home and seething about Sydney? Like, you didn't enjoy that whole process of becoming a director and stuff? I don't know. Like, I would
Yeah.
expect him to be like Travis Bickle from like Taxi Driver or something. Like some guys like, I went away to like the Gulf War. Like, you ruined my fucking life. Like, I'm back. Like, that sort of thing. Not like douchebag LA guy killing it sort of thing.
Yeah, no, and Sydney doesn't even know him, so again, like there's no betrayal there. It really, the unmasking really means nothing. She has no idea who he is. So yeah, this is for sure the weakest of all the Scream killers.
Oh yeah, dude.
And the climax in general is just seems like such
like a Scooby-Doo episode kind of.
It does feel very Scooby-Doo, but the fact that it all just kind of ends in this dark basement, we had that epic showdown in Scream 2 in the theater, and then this is just, there's just a real lack of ambition or creativity. I think I already said that, but I think I just need to repeat it. And I actually did hear that Wes Craven just kind of had to whip this up like that day on set. It was a really rough production. Like I heard Craven wanted to end the movie on the sets from the original movie. Remember earlier, this is scene, actually it's probably the best scene in the movie, where Sydney gets attacked on the Stab 3 sets.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I have no idea why, Craven wasn't able to make that work for the climax, so he had to just come up with something in this screening room.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite part of the movie too, is getting to revisit that. And one thing I wanted to look up and I didn't is she has a Creed poster.
Yes.
Okay, in the bedroom. Yep. I'm assuming that is not from Scream 1.
No.
Yeah. Yep. I was like, okay, I guess they're really trying to kick it into gear in 2000, sure. So I noticed that, but otherwise I was like, I like this. I like that part.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I think, they only had Nev Campbell on set, I think, for like 2 weeks. So that was another issue that they had to work around. It just seems like this was a really troubled production.
Yeah.
I think just the overall tone in this movie just doesn't really work for me. It does come off just kind of like this lighthearted comedy sometimes.
Yeah. Dude, it's got Jane Silent Bob in it. Like,
yeah, that's almost a jump the shark moment.
Yeah, it's too comedic. And then in Jane Silent Bob, they have Wes Craven in it. I don't know if you've ever seen Jane Silent Bob Strike Back.
I have. I don't remember.
Dude, yeah, there's a scene where they go on like a horror movie set, and it's Shannon Doherty, I think. And she's getting chased by Ghostface, and it's like, let's see who you really are, and takes it off, and it's a monkey. And then she goes over, she's like, Wes, like a monkey? And he's like, what? They're cute. And it's like, are you guys like fucking with us? Like, what is this? But yeah, that did kind of feel, it was, dude, it felt like it feels like it got just put through Hollywood machine almost. Like, it just got so glamorized and just didn't have that, I don't know, that feel like the other ones did.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as feeling subversive or even the moments where they're talking about the genre conventions and rules of a trilogy, it doesn't feel anywhere near as sharp as that first movie did. But I mean, that's just the way it goes with franchises, I guess. I will say, especially looking back at it now, I thought there's a really interesting subplot where you find out that Lance Henriksen in this movie, who's a Hollywood producer, he raped Sydney's mother. And essentially that's the event that kind of caused her life to unravel and essentially is responsible. It's the reason why this kind of whole series of events started. And I just thought that was really interesting, considering this movie is produced by the Weinsteins.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like Craven spent his life fighting against the idea that movies create monsters. But I think what this movie is saying is that Hollywood may not create monsters, but Hollywood is full of monsters, if that makes sense. Like,
No, dude, absolutely. I mean, and it's funny because even Lance Henderson's character says like it was a different time. Things were different back then. And he's saying that in 2000 where clearly it wasn't. Like it's exactly the same as it was back then. So what's his face? Harvey Weinstein's watching this in the cutting room and he's probably just laughing, like an asshole. It's just, ugh. Yeah,
it is pretty shocking watching this now and then when the credits roll you see who produced it. But
you're right though.
Yeah, I just thought that was an interesting thing. One of the I don't want to say the few interesting things about this movie, but one of the best aspects of it.
Yeah. Well, there's two scenes, because again, this is the one I'd seen probably the most, which I'm not happy about that. But there's two scenes that stuck out to me so much. When I was a kid, it scared me, and now watching it, I'm laughing. Is the mother coming back? It's like, I need to talk to you. Like, and I was like, when I was a kid, that scared the shit out of me. Now watching it, I'm like, what is this? Like, this is ridiculous.
I don't hate it, I mean, it's a nightmare scene. It's a Wes Craven movie. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that I bet Wes was just like, you know what, script is being rewritten. Why don't I just, pull something out of my old Nightmare on Elm Street playbook,
Yeah, that's a good point. But that was always something that got me as a kid. And then the one thing that stuck with me forever is when he throws the knife, Ghostface throws the knife at Dewey, and it butt of the knife hits him in the head. That stuck with me forever, dude. I don't know why.
That's actually a pretty solid scene.
Yeah.
Going into all these movies, like I said, me and my friends were very, connected to these characters, especially at this point. This is part 3. We assume, it was always like, who's going to die? And that scene, Gail's fighting for her life, and then the knife is coming at Dewey. That was actually a pretty effective scene. You didn't know who was going to get it.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of that, I want to ask you, do you think that because of the success of these movies and because of how the actors, their careers all played off after Scream 1, do you think it was a conscious decision by Kevin Williamson to keep those 3 alive, or do you think it was part of their contract to be like, you can't kill them?
I think with David Arquette, with Dewey, I think in Scream 1 and 2, they intended to kill him, and they shot him being loaded into the ambulance just in case, like, they changed their mind. I'm pretty sure that was the case. And both times they decided, you know what, we're going to let him live. With the others, yeah, I mean, I would imagine they always intended Sydney to go on. And Courtney Cox, yeah, I mean, I actually had the first Scream script, and at least in the version of the script I had, she always lived. And Courtney was such a huge star because of Friends. I can't imagine you would want to lose her. So
right.
I feel like Dewey was the only one they strongly considered.
Yeah, because I guess they're the only ones that have really been in all 3 of them. Or all 4 now, and soon to be 5.
Soon to be 5, yeah. I will say about this movie, there is I'd say an almost shocking lack of gore in the death scenes. And I do think that was a result of Columbine, which happened before this movie, and put a lot of, I think there was a lot of pressure on violent movies to kind of, go a little bit easier after that happened.
Yeah, I can't remember any of the deaths except for Jenny McCarthy getting stabbed in the back.
And even that is pretty tame.
Yeah, I can't remember any of them.
And this movie is unique for only having one killer. Apparently, there were going to be 2. The girl that is playing Sydney in Stab, I think her name is Angelina. I think she was supposed to be the second killer, but for whatever reason, they wrote her out. And I mean, when she gets killed, it's like, you don't even see, I don't even think they sprang for any fake blood. You just see Ghostface run at her, and there's a sound effect, and boom, she's gone. It just seems like they just wanted to get through this. From what I understand, well, I mean, it's not exactly a hot take. The Weinsteins weren't the easiest people to work for.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, Craven's probably biggest battle with them is still to come when he did the werewolf movie Cursed. I don't know if you know anything about that movie, but the behind the scenes drama is much more interesting than the movie itself.
That was after this?
Yeah, that was after this. It was in the early 2000s sometime.
I feel like the only Wes Craven movie I saw between the Screams was Red Eye,
Mm-hmm.
which I actually
Yeah.
liked, I think.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's a pretty good one. Yeah, Cursed. Yeah, instead of seeing it, you should just Google it because, yeah, it was a cursed production from what I understand.
Yeah, I'm so glad they're out of the industry now, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. It sucks because, so many of the movies I grew up with, you see their names on it.
I know.
Like, I mean, so many, like all of Tarantino's movies.
know.
I mean, the Scream movies, The Crow. I mean, they were like my youth. I mean, not they. I mean, they financed these movies, but their names are all over the movies that I love. And
Dude, I mean, all of
Yeah.
Kevin Smith's movies, it's
oh, sure,
it's everything. Yeah,
yeah, Good Will Hunting.
Dude, yeah, Phantoms, no, but it is,
Yeah.
dude, it just sucks. Yeah, I know.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, there's one thing. The music with the I never remember the Australian band with the Red Right Hand. That song, Nick Castle,
Nick Cave.
Nick Cave. That
Mhm.
song, dude, like periodically, slips in through all of the movies. It's not in the fourth
Mhm.
one though. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to listen for in Scream 5. I feel like you gotta squeeze that in.
I know that's like their song, but yeah, overall, it's definitely the weakest in my opinion. It does feel like they kind of wrapped it up nicely, though. You get what is it? Sydney goes back to the house. She's got like a quote unquote boyfriend now, and
Mhm.
they're gonna watch maybe a scary movie. And that's the door opens.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of a nice little ending. Like the door opens and Sydney doesn't bother, closing it and locking it. It just shows that she's willing to, be a little more free, and she feels like she's put the past behind her. I thought it was kind of a nice little moment to end on. And
Harvey Weinstein being like, "We're leaving the door open for sequels."
or you could take it like that, sure. But I'll say walking out of the theater back in the year 2000, I was pretty sure that this was it, because from what I understand, this movie made good money, but it seemed like the moment was kind of past for these kinds of movies, and I feel like the year before with The Sixth Sense, that kind of led to a whole new boom of supernatural horror movies and
Blair Witch,
haunted house movies and Blair Witch and The Ring. And it just seemed like Scream had its, the slasher movies had its time in the late 90s into the 2000s. And now we were going to do something else. And, I know Craven wanted to do other things and it seemed like that was it, but obviously not.
I know it does feel like a nice little bow, like on the top of just the slasher genre. It's like, hey, started in the late 70s, ends now, kind of guys. But yeah, well, do you have any other thoughts on Scream 3?
Yeah, I mean, not terrible, but worth checking out. It's a Scream movie. It's fun.
Yeah, exactly.
I probably prefer it to like I Still Know What You Did Last Summer or Urban Legend 2 or a lot of other Valentine.
100%, dude. There's so like, regardless of everything we're talking about, honestly, if you were just to look at like track records of like Halloween or Friday the 13th or Chucky or any of those, Scream has got a pretty good track record. So if 3 is the worst, that's saying something.
Yeah, it's a really consistent series for a horror franchise.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening in. If you are also interested in the Book of Boba Fett, we just released our 3rd episode, which came out today, so you can listen for that. But otherwise, we will see you tomorrow with Scream 4.